Vitellius made a limp attempt to hold the Apennine passes against Primus and Fuscus' advance. However, the army he sent forth simply went over to the enemy without a fight at Narnia on the 17th of December. Learning of this, Vitellius tried to abdicate, hoping no doubt to save his own life as well as those of his family. Though in a bizarre move, his supporters refused to accept this and forced him to return to the imperial palace. In the meantime, Titus Flavius Sabinus, the elder brother of Vespasian, who was city prefect of Rome, on hearing of Vitellius' abdication attempt, together with a few friends, to seize control of the city. But his party was attacked by Vitellius' guards and fled to the capital. The following day, the capital went up in flames, including the ancient temple of Jupiter, the very symbol of the Roman state. Flavius Sabinus and his supporters were dragged before Vitellius and put to death. Only 2 days after these killings, on the 20th of December, the army of Primus and Fuscus fought its way into the city. Vitellius was carried to his wife's house on the Aventine, from where he intended to flee to Campania. But at this crucial point he strangely appeared to change his mind, and returned to the palace. With hostile troops about to storm the place, everyone had wisely deserted the building. So, all alone, Vitellius tied a money belt around his waist and disguised himself in dirty clothes and hid in the doorkeeper's lodge, piling up furniture against the door to prevent anyone from entering. But a pile of furniture was hardly a match for soldiers of the Danubian legions. The door was broken down, and Vitellius was dragged out of the palace and through the streets of Rome. Half naked, he was hauled to the Forum, tortured and killed, and thrown into the river Tiber. The emperor who built the Colosseum, to the Italians, la persona che ha fatto I gabinetti, Vespasian. Vespasian was brave, active, free from vice, and although fond of money, was never charged with extortion or rapacity. Although never a refined or cultivated man, Vespasian restored the vigor of the Roman government and gave peace and prosperity to his subjects. Vespasian founded a library and established schools of rhetoric in Rome. Titus Flavius Sabinus Vespasianus was born in AD 9 at Riete, north of Rome. His father, Flavius Sabinus, was a tax collector and held equestrian rank. His mother, Vespasia Paula, belonged to an equestrian family, and her brother managed to become a senator. Vespasian and his brother Sabinus both also managed to follow in their uncle's footsteps and become senators. In AD 39, Vespasian married Flavia Domitilla. It was not necessarily a good match for a man seeking a high-flying career. Flavia was not even a full Roman citizen, and had been the mistress of a Roman equestrian in Tripolitania. It appears their marriage was truly one inspired by love rather than political ambitions. Flavia and Vespasian did have 3 children together, though she died long before Vespasian was to become emperor. And he would still remember her with great affection when he came to power. During the reign of Tiberius, Vespasian was a military tribune in Thrace, and then went on to serve as praetor in Crete and Cyrene. In AD 40, Vespasian was made praetor under Caligula, and under Claudius he enjoyed patronage of the powerful minister Narcissus. During the invasion of Britain, during AD 43 to 47, Vespasian commanded a legion, the Second Augusta, and distinguished himself with military successes in the south and southwest of England. In particular, he made himself a name with the effective use of artillery when assaulting heavily defended positions fortified by earthworks, and had been responsible for taking the Isle of Wight. This success led to Vespasian's election of consul for AD 51, and in AD 63 he was proconsul of Africa, his administration winning much praise. This praise was won largely due to Vespasian not following the usual course of milking the province for his own financial gain. In turn, however, he did suffer private financial problems and only avoided bankruptcy with the help from his brother Sabinus. Though in AD 66, as member of Nero's imperial entourage in Greece, the gritty, down-to-earth soldier Vespasian committed the ultimate sin by either walking out or falling asleep during the course of one of Nero's recitals. He fell from grace and fled to some obscure town, hiding in fear of his life. But in AD 67 he was offered a province and an army command of 3 legions by Nero. If the emperor was mad and wanted to see Vespasian dead, he needed him now. The Jewish rebellion of AD 67 called for a commander who knew of ways to oust the Jews from their walled cities. Someone had obviously reminded the emperor of Vespasian's record against the defensive earthworks in Britain. At the age of 58, Vespasian, headed for Judea, directed the reduction of Jotapata in the north and began the preparations for the siege of Jerusalem. In hearing of Nero's death, Vespasian formally recognized the ascension of Galba. When news arrived of Galba's murder in early AD 69, Vespasian was prompted to consider rebellion. He had on his side the governor of Syria, Gaius Licinius Mucianus. At first, the two had not gotten along well, mainly due to Mucianus resenting that Vespasian's military command had been given higher status by Nero than his governorship. But now they both needed allies to weather the crisis following the death of 2 emperors. After Otho's suicide in April AD of 69, they formed plans to take action. They both acknowledged Vitellius' ascension, but meanwhile secretly enlisted the support of Tiberius Julius Alexander in Egypt. Mucianus had no sons of his own to be his heirs. Alexander was only of equestrian rank and a Jew. Neither, therefore, could be considered as potential emperors. Vespasian, though, had 2 sons, Titus and Domitian, was of senatorial rank and had held the consulship. All 3 agreed that he should be their candidate for the throne. On the 1st of July, Alexander commanded the legions of Egypt to swear an oath of allegiance to Vespasian. Within 2 weeks, the armies of Judea and Syria had followed that example. The plan was that Mucianus would lead 20,000 men into Italy, with Vespasian remaining in the east, where he could control the all-important Egyptian grain supply to Rome. Though by late August, the Danubian armies also declared themselves for Vespasian. Antonius Primus, commander of the 6th Legion in Pannonia, and Cornelius Fuscus, imperial procurator of Illyricum, now led the Danube legions in a rapid descent on Italy. They commanded a relatively modest force of 5 legions, perhaps 30,000 men, which was only half of what Vitellius had at his disposal in Italy. The Second Battle of Cremona began on the 24th of October AD 69 and ended the next day in the complete victory for Primus and Fuscus. On the 17th of December AD 69, an army sent to fight Primus and Fuscus defected to them at Narnia, leaving the way free to Rome. When Vitellius learned of this, he tried to abdicate, and Vespasian's elder brother Titus Flavius Sabinus, city prefect of Rome at the time, attempted to take control of the city, but he and his supporters were attacked by Vitellius' soldiers and killed. 2 days later, on the 20th of December, the army of Primus and Fuscus fought its way into Rome against a determined defense. The following day the Senate confirmed Vespasian as emperor. Mucianus arrived soon after. Until Vespasian's arrival, Mucianus ruled on his behalf alongside the emperor's younger son, Domitian, who had been in Rome throughout the troubles. Vespasian now headed for Rome, leaving his son Titus behind to capture Jerusalem, and arrived in Rome on October AD 70. He was almost 61, but he was still fit and active. Soon after, Titus in Palestine brought an end to the Jewish revolt, although the siege at Masada continued until AD 73. And in the north, Cyrillus defeated the Gallo-Germans uprising at Augusta Trevivorum. In effect, Vespasian, an old military veteran, was the man who could finally deliver peace to the empire. Vespasian possessed insight and the sense of how to maintain peace, too. Though the destruction of Jerusalem and the retaliation against the Jews were carried out with unnecessary severity, and restrictions were placed on some of their practices, Jews were excused from Caesar worship. Vespasian's relationship with the Senate was a mixed one. He attended the meetings of the Senate and consulted the senators with great care. But the day he chose to date his ascension was not the 21st of December AD 69, when the senators had recognized him, but the 1st of July AD 69, when he had first been acclaimed emperor by his troops. In short, he respected the Senate for its ancient tradition and dignity, but he made it evidently clear that he knew the true power to lie within the army. On his son Titus' return from Palestine in AD 71, Vespasian formally made him his associate in government, granting him the title of Caesar, and appointed him commander of the imperial guard, a sound move considering the role the Praetorians had played in establishing and overthrowing previous rulers. Also in AD 71, he instituted the first salaried public professorship when he appointed Quintilian, AD 40 to 118, to a chair of literature and rhetoric. He also exempted all doctors and teachers of grammar and rhetoric from paying taxes under Vespasian too. A new class of professional civil servants was created, drawn largely from the business community. In AD 73 to 74, Vespasian, like Claudius had done before him, revived and occupied the office of censor together with his son Titus, in order to have control over membership to the Senate. With the empire devastated by civil war, Vespasian needed to steeply increase taxation to cover the empire's vast costs. These measures soon earned him an undeserved reputation for meanness and greed. Though Vespasian was keen to lead by example and lead a life free of extravagances and luxury in order not to further burden the provinces with the cost of his imperial office, Vespasian, in any case, appears not to have had a taste for extravagant living. He was a brilliant and tireless administrator with a gift so often lacking in his predecessors of picking the right man for a job.